Hello?
Hello, is this Justin?
Yep, this is Justin.
Justin, how are you? Paul, Outsider Tackle Box radio show and podcast. I got my good buddy Tommy in the studio with me.
Hey, what's going on, Justin? How you doing, bud?
Hey, doing pretty good.
Good.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, Justin. The purpose of the radio show and podcast is to spread happiness to the world through the joys of fishing. Fishing is therapeutic for a lot of people, and it's a lot of fun. And you sent in quite a few photos. We weren't able to post them all, but we will have you back on the show because we have now Alaska in the mix and part of the fish story. And I can't tell you how happy we are that the Carpentar family sends in photos and they buy fishing gear from us. We're happy to have you guys come on. And your brother Justin, it was on...
No, he's Justin.
Oh, I'm sorry, your brother JC.
Jonathan, yeah.
It was right in front of me.
I know, you look
Plus,
down.
I'm smart. SMRT.
Yeah, SMRT. I am
so smart. You should have done that.
That's why you're wearing your glasses today, because you're smart.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I'm going to wear glasses today, because I'm so smart.
Justin, I purposely popped out the lens of the glasses, and I put them on just because I wanted to make Tommy laugh. And it worked. Like, these glasses are not even really...
You just look ridiculous at this point.
But that's the look I was going for. But welcome to the show. Let's hear your fish story. We want to hear where you caught the fish, the bait that you were using, and the size of it, if you were able to measure it. And you sent in quite a few photos, so you can go ahead and take a pic.
It looks like you were halibut fishing in those photos.
Some halibut?
Yeah, so we definitely went out halibut fishing. That's kind of the main event. Everyone wants to get their halibut. We went out of Seward, Alaska.
Okay.
Went about 44 miles offshore to some rock pinnacles out in the Gulf.
Uh-huh.
Typically, we fished shallow that day, so that was around 300 feet. Mm-hmm. We used about 2 pounds of lead, 200-pound mono with a circle hook about the size of your hand.
Wow.
And typically we're baiting up entire salmon heads, 4 to 5 entire herring at once. Dropping that down 300 feet to the bottom, reeling up a few times. We're constantly chumming. Typically there's always a chum bag tied to the anchor line. There's also what we have called chum bombs that typically a spare pole has got about, these chum bombs are literally about the size of a basketball, just chopped up herring. The decky drops that down there, works that for a few minutes, then rips it open, lets that scatter on the bottom of the ocean, gets all the fish attracted. So that was technically a fishing charter, since they have kind of a rule where you have to have one halibut, has to be under 28 inches, which is what we call basically a chicken.
Yeah.
When you go out, you catch a lot of chickens, but everyone's chasing that monster. So unfortunately, that trip, I only got basically 2 chickens. My work friend who I went with got a 55-pounder, which is a good size, to where it's not too big, but it's still, super fun to catch, kind of somewhat easy to land, even though we do have to harpoon a fish that big. Yeah. But, just an awesome time for the halibut and all that stuff.
Well, fishing for halibut, 55 pounds is already big, but like 55-pound halibut, it almost seems like it's double that weight, because it's like you're trying to pull up a carpet from the bottom of the bottom of the water.
Yeah, we always joke about hauling up a front door from 300 feet.
Yeah.
In fact, sometimes one of our bycatches is skate, and some skates literally can get 5 feet across, and you can fight these things for an hour and a half thinking you have a record halibut, and then when you get it to the surface, you just gotta let it go. So a lot of guys spend half the day wearing their arms out on one of these skates, and it's the same thing. They don't weigh too much, but the force, and you can tell you're pulling up a flat fish from that far pretty quick within the fight.
I would have not known what a skate was until you posted that blog and I shared it, and it was on Shark Week, I believe, and it kind of fell in good with the running joke that we have with sharks, and so they are. I don't even know anything about the skate. Is it a shark? Or they were just saying?
Technically, I believe it's a very similar species to a shark. It's definitely obviously doesn't look like one, but I think it has the same style of the bone setup and the structure and all that stuff. And for a most part, they're very, very similar.
Just like a sturgeon.
We also have, in one of those photos, I actually caught a spiny dogfish, which basically that basically is a shark. They don't get much bigger than the photo. That's also kind of a nuisance bycatch. And a lot of times if you bring up a skate or a spiny dogfish, the captain looks and he probably had missed his spot where he'd anchored up. He might have gone a little bit too deep off of his shelf or his hump that he wanted to be on.
Yeah.
So sometimes if we're catching more dogfish or skate, he'll pull anchor and we'll reposition the boat into a more better location. So that's kind of indicators of what the fishing is like when you start pulling up stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, those are I think spiny dogfish max out about 3 feet long, right? Like 2.5, 3 feet, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but I've never seen them much larger than what someone else caught another one that day on the boat.
Yeah, they're pretty average on that. But
yeah,
that's cool, man. I'm actually really excited to see that, because the halibut that we have out here are not like the halibut that you have up there.
They've been overfished and.
Well, the halibut that we have down here,
but still, they're always babies, and they're never.
They're always babies. I mean, legal size for us is over 20. I think it's 22 inches, something like that.
It's always smaller
But it's, I mean, very rare do you catch like a keeper. But I mean, the halibut that we catch down here are just small. But even just those small ones, I mean, you're still feeling like you're tugging on a rock at first,
Yeah.
They're just way different.
Some of the other fish that we caught that trip were the Yelloweye rockfish. Those are those very bright orange ones.
Yeah.
And so those are a non-pelagic, and we basically were catching those at the same depth, but we had moved over and we're fishing next to a reef. And my coworker who I went with caught a 34-inch rockfish. And the oldest one, and basically the one they have that's kind of like the record, was 37 inches, and it was 75 years old. So the fish that he caught was probably between 50 and 70 years old. And, caught about 250 feet. And you're only allowed one of those a day. So we kind of went over to that reef. Everyone caught their Yelloweye, and we got out of there because, it's one of those ones where you can't really release them once you get them up that high.
No, because they're like a pressure fish. Like once you start bringing them up, they
pop, come out of their mouth.
And we did catch actually a lot more fish than that one fish lineup photo. We caught that amount of dusky and black sea bass, which are black rockfish. But a lot of times we do those out on the boat because it just makes the time so much quicker. So a lot of the stuff got filleted out there, and also the silvers were running. So there were 2 silver salmon caught. And the way that we fish for those is kind of like mooching. You basically have a mooching rig with a weight and a hoochie. And you basically have a line counter, bait caster reel, and the captain will be driving on the boat, and he'll see a ball of bait, usually typically herring. We'll see birds above, and we'll go up to that ball of bait, drop down maybe like 120 feet, and start jigging on your way up, and you'll start getting silvers. We'll start nailing it, and you'll get black rockfish that will hit it as well. And basically everything that day was caught on herring bait. The cut bait was used for the salmon, and then obviously the whole ones for the halibut. And between about 8 people, we went through 75 pounds of bait that day.
Wow.
That's a lot of fish.
But you guys brought up a lot of fish, though. So.
Oh, yeah. And then the chumming and all that stuff. And
man, that's awesome, though. That looks like a good time. That's actually on the bucket list, is to go halibut fishing up in Alaska. So.
Yeah, definitely. That's some of the top of the line.
In Alaska.
If you guys don't mind, I'll go ahead and name drop the charter company, because they do have they got to get some benefits as well. So it was Miller's Landing, and it was Captain Dustin and his decky Paul, and I've gone out with them multiple years now, and definitely one of the world class fishing lodges. I mean, some of the best of the best. I wouldn't always recommended. So if you ever get up here, definitely have to check them out as Seward. They go the farthest out and have the longest charters and the best boat. So
sounds like a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an all-day event. They pick you up right on the beach. You don't even have to go into a boat harbor. They slide their boat up right on the beach and pick you up and just take you out, and it's just you guys the entire day, basically.
Nice. That's pretty cool.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, and please continue to share your photos with us. People love to hear fish stories all over the world, and we're going to send you some free stuff for coming on the show, so offline, just send us your mailing address, and we'll get that out to you. From all of us here at Outsider Tackle Box radio show and podcast, Tight Lines.
Fish more.
And it was a pleasure,
Have a good Saturday,
Justin.
bud. Have a good one, bud.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. You guys have a good one.
Take care,
You too.
Justin.
Thanks.
Bye.
Take care.
All right, bye.